Hey Raindrops, now before we get into this video, I want to talk to you about joining my community. Yes, my YouTube community of subscribers. So make sure you like and subscribe to this channel. It helps build the channel and build our community. I love it when you guys comment and post. So remember, make sure to like and subscribe to this channel.
All right, so Kimberly Dobine, welcome to season 2 of Love and Marriage Detroit. We're so happy to have you as a part of this cast. You, your husband, and your beautiful children. Kimberly, how are you enjoying things thus far, being a TV star now, girl? What's going on?
It's been interesting. I'm gonna be
Yeah,
completely honest. So it's just funny, like when people say, "Oh, I saw you on TV," I'm like that's weird, even though that's not my first time hearing it. When you've done stuff in the past, but
yeah,
I think now at this stage, it's like, oh my gosh, this is like really a thing. This is
yeah.
really happening. And so I'm just enjoying the journey. I really am. Yeah.
Well, I think that out of everything that we've seen thus far, just getting to meet you and your gorgeous family, there's one pressing question that I think, based on some of the kind of ups and downs that we saw throughout the past couple of episodes, there's one pressing question that most of the fans of this show have.
Yeah.
We just have to know, Kimberly, do you still have an Android? That's what we want to know. Do you still have a damn Android? Because that
I
Android
do
fire
not.
all day.
I listen. So my husband bought us iPhones in 2022 when I was pregnant with my son
Okay.
because I have, been doing a lot of like media stuff and influencer work, working with videographers, photographers for so long. And it was such a hassle. Every time somebody's like, "Oh, I want to send you stuff," they have to go through all these hoops to send us stuff. So he was like, "You know what? I'm gonna get some iPhone so that way it'll just be easier for your life, right?"
Yeah.
But no, I do not have an Android. However, I miss my Android because my pictures were fire.
Take the bomb best
They take
picture.
the best pictures. And that was the joke. That was always the joke. My friends would take my phone to take all the pictures, but they hated the green bubble when we had a group chat, right?
That's
So
it.
no, I have an iPhone,
Okay.
yes, but we know that that is not the reason. Y'all know I was not upset about no phone, okay?
We're gonna get to all of that good stuff, but I think, again, because we have been so fortunate to be introduced to another successful, gorgeous Black family, we're interested in who you are outside of all of the kind of more testy matters on the show, right? So before you became Kimberly Dobine, who were you? Talk to us about just your background, your upbringing, where you from. Like, let us know.
Yeah, so thank you so much for that. So I was born Kimberly Brown, born and raised in Detroit, Michigan.
East
Um,
or West, Kimberly?
West Side. I grew up on
Okay.
the West Side of Detroit. Like literally, when I say we're Detroit through and through, genuinely grew up in the city. I grew up off 6 Mile and Evergreen.
Great
Okay.
neighborhood.
I
Yes.
went to St. Gerard, which was like a Catholic school in the inner city, like in the middle,
Hmm.
in the heart of Detroit,
Hmm.
next to Henry Ford High School. If you're
Yes.
familiar with Detroit, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes.
I went to Renaissance High School.
Okay.
I've been, pursuing entertainment since I was a kid, really. Been in girl groups, auditioned for plays, TV, did pageants growing up. So
Wow.
in college, so I went to college on a vocal music scholarship. I went to Renaissance, sang in the choir, and was blessed to have the opportunity to audition for several different colleges and went to school
Hmm.
on a vocal music scholarship. So I went to the Alabama A&M University.
Yes.
Shout out to Bulldogs. And that's where I spent 4 years. And I actually majored in communications and political science. So I went as a music major. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to major in this, but can I still keep my scholarship? So I decided communications and political science was really what I wanted to hone in on because I really wanted to be a news reporter. That's what I wanted
Yeah,
to.
I can see that. I can see
Yes,
it. Yeah.
that's what I wanted to do. And then things kind of went different ways because I was singing and doing all kinds of stuff in college. And so, funny enough, I actually auditioned for making the band, was a fine
Wow.
that like this has been like an ongoing thing, right? Look, thank God. Thank God you met me, okay? But I lived in LA for a few years, acting, doing things, and then had the opportunity to be Miss Black California,
Oh,
USA.
that's so dope, Kimberly.
Yes, so I competed at in the Miss Black USA pageant. So I've been, doing stuff for years. And,
Yeah.
I moved to Atlanta, lived in Atlanta for several years, and did a lot of more so like PR event type of stuff. I was always the girly at the events, either
Hmm.
on the door or know somebody at the door
Hmm.
type of girl. And so when I was about 29, I was 29, I had an opportunity to move back to the city because I had been working in finance too. So I've always been a multi-dimensional,
Hmm.
multifaceted girl. So I have been working in
Love
finance
that.
and had an opportunity to move back to Detroit, interviewed for the company, which is now Rocket Mortgage, but at
Hmm.
the time was Quicken Loans.
Quicken Loans. Yep.
Yes. And they moved me to Detroit. That's when Detroit was in the resurgence. So
Yes.
they really wanted a lot of us who were born and raised in Detroit to come back to the city. And
Yeah.
so moved back here in 2013 and the rest is history. So when I moved back here, I met my husband. We met
Yeah.
at work. I launched my brand, POS Popular, which at the time was a blog that turned into this whole thing that it is today. And yeah, so that's just like a very small tidbit, but
Yeah.
it's been a journey. I feel like I've lived 4 or 5 different lives in my short time here on earth. So it's been fun.
Yeah.
It's been a
It
journey.
sounds like a life well lived. And I personally, so I grew up in Flint and I lived in downtown Detroit for many, many years, right in
Yeah,
Brook Park. And so I am a person who I have an affinity for people that kind of chase their dreams and go a little bit
yeah,
further than expected. And
yeah,
especially if you're able to recognize the beauty and the opportunity in where you come from and
yeah.
come back to that and really squeeze that lemon. I
Yeah.
think that that's admirable. So congratulations on that, Kimberly.
Thank you.
Um, POS Popular. Talk to us about POS Popular. And now, is that the name of your event company, your event production
So,
company
so
now?
now it is a whole conglomerate. So
Yeah.
POS Popular actually started just as a blog. And
Hmm.
it really started as a joke. And I tell this story all the time. It was not supposed to be a thing. I was the friend. So when I lived in Atlanta and even growing up, everybody will tell you in Detroit, if you're familiar with Detroit, C'est La Vie was the store, right? That was the store. So I was a C'est La Vie girl. I worked at BB, Art and B, like all
Yes.
the stores, honey. And
Yes.
when I lived in Atlanta, I was a store manager at a store called Karen Millen. And
Okay.
so, and this is before I got moved into the finance realm when I started working for,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
I was a shop girly. And
Hmm.
I was the friend that everybody would call, like, girl, I got a date. What should I wear? Or I'm coming up to the store. Help me put something together. I've always been like that friend, right? And so I literally was like, I'm just going to start a blog and y'all can go there and get all the tips. So it literally started as a joke because I used to blog before blogging was really popular. I would
Right.
blog my experience as a pageant girl because that was how I would gain sponsorship. So
Okay.
yes. So this is like back in literally like 2006, 7, and 8. I was
Yeah.
blogging before it was like a popular thing. So
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna just create this blog. Y'all can go on the website and then y'all can get tips. And then it literally turned into like, okay, so when are you gonna post again? Okay, so when are you doing a meetup? Like it became like this thing. And so from there, I started doing events around the city just to kind of bring women together.
Hmm.
Different female entrepreneurs in the area would partner with me and we would have events at like different shops and businesses. And a lot of women were like, you need to keep this going. And so
Yeah.
then it turned into, okay, I'm gonna do a fashion and beauty summit. And then that turned into like a thing that will grow each year. And then it was like, oh, Kim, well, can you do some projects for GM? Oh, okay. Then it
Hmm.
turned into a beauty concierge service for Fortune 500 companies. And then I was just like, okay. And then it was like, oh, we know you do events too. And then it turned, so it's like POS Popular is a full-on brand, fully trademarked. And so there are different legs, but it's
Mm-hmm.
conglomerate of everything I love, everything I'm passionate about. So event design, styling, curation, female entrepreneurship, empowerment events, you name it. We do everything. So and it's still a blog, believe it or not. So I still blog when I have brand partners that are like, we want a blog post. Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, it's still a thing.
I love that because it sounds like it's like a hub for the execution of all your creative ideas,
Yes,
right?
it
And
is.
I think that that's so dope. Honestly, like as a creative myself, that's something we all work toward is just having a home and a
Yes,
space, an equitable space,
yes.
right? And a lucrative space where you can kind of develop your creative ideas and turn them into actionable items. So I think that's so cool, Kimberly.
Thank you.
Now you said that you met your husband Marcel at work. Talk to us a
Yes.
little bit about how you guys met and how that went down for you.
So we met literally the first day of work was April 1st. So
Hmm.
April Fool's Day, I guess the joke was on both of us, right? So we both were coming in as mortgage bankers.
Yeah.
So he was standing behind me in line because they had us separated between our last name. So he's like, good morning. And I'm like, good morning. You know, Detroit attitude girl, like, don't start. Okay. Because, you know, in finance, it is predominantly male driven. There are not
Hmm.
women in the finance realm. And especially when you talk about mortgage banking or any type of, you know, wealth management, things like
Hmm.
that, is
Hmm.
very male dominated. So I was used to being around men that would like flirt, but I'm like, we're
Yeah.
at work, right?
Yeah.
And so we were in a lot of our training groups together because when you go in as a mortgage banker, you have a lot of tests. We had to do several state licensing tests along with
Hmm.
the big test. It's called the SAFE. Very similar. It's like the mortgage or finance equivalent to taking the bar. So if you're a lawyer,
Right. Hmm.
you got to take the bar. When you're in mortgage business, you got to take the SAFE.
It's a
And
definitive assessment of your
yeah,
skill.
it's
Yeah.
a very strenuous test. And so Quicken provides like heavy training. Like it's probably, if you want to be a mortgage banker, I tell people, go work for Quicken, go work for Rocket.
Hmm.
It's the best company for training because they
Hmm.
are dialed in with that. And so we were in our training courses and we had a group that we would, you know, meet with. And so one particular day, he's like, you know, let's go get wine after, you know, meet with everybody. And so everybody kind of like fizzled out. And he was like, you know, I think we should date. And I was like, you don't
Straight
even
like that.
like straight like that. And I was
Yeah.
like, you don't even know me. Like, you know, and he's like, well, I want to get to know you. And I said, well, I don't really date people that I work with. And so he was like, okay. He was like, I understand. But he was like, I'll tell you this. If you decide that you just absolutely don't want to date me, you can pretend like you never met me and we could just walk past each other like we never met. And I was like, okay. And literally we went on our first date and we literally shut the restaurant down. Like we just talked and talked. And I was like, okay, he's really nice. And there was one day we were at work and he was actually speaking to our region. And I was like, oh my God. And
Yeah, man. That's so
I
cool.
remember God literally saying, like, yep, that's him. And I was like, okay, like never would have thunk it. But yeah, so that is our story. And he
Yeah.
definitely loves to tell the story as well. But that's my version of the story.
I love it because the one thing neither one of y'all had to worry about was the other one having a job because you knew that going in.
Okay.
Hey, I love the way that that went. Now you have
Baby, you not have to
beautiful,
wonder.
beautiful children, right? You have Lourdes and your son Chancellor or Buka man, as you call them, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Are you finished? Is the shop closed? Do you want to have more or
Closed. The door is closed, baby. Lock, seal, throw the key, baby. We done.
they done bulldozed it down, huh? That's
Okay.
it.
Listen, and this is like when they say that second child,
Hmm.
I tell you, Booker Man ain't nothing to play with. He ain't
Yeah.
dope. I said, if I had had him first, I don't think we would have made it to two, baby. I don't know. Booger Man off the chain. So no, we are done. But they are absolutely beautiful children.
Yes,
He
they
is,
are.
but he took us through a lot health-wise. So his
Mm,
year of life, we were like, Lord.
mm,
So then we got to the first year of life and he's doing much better. And now he busy as I don't know what. I said,
thank
ooh,
God.
he off the chain, baby. Them boys, they
Um,
don't tell you about them boys.
we the ones. We the ones. Um, Okay, so now you know you're at this point you're Mrs. Kimberly Dobine. You have
Yes,
your gorgeous family, and now you're introduced to us, the viewing
yes,
public, as a part of the season 2 cast of Love
yes.
and Marriage Detroit. Did you watch the first season of the show?
I did not watch the first
Okay,
season. That is
okay.
the big question. I did not watch the first season. And
Hmm.
so I didn't really know like what to expect. I just knew that I was coming in as Latoya's friend. I really was just like, oh, I'm just gonna kiki with Toya. And
Hmm.
I really had zero
Hmm.
expectations, like none whatsoever. And definitely had a lot of hesitation because I'm like, okay, like, well, how is this going to work? But no, I did not watch the show the first season.
Okay, were you familiar with Colby and Russell at the time? Did you
Yes,
have a connection to them? How were
yes.
you guys connected, Kimberly?
So Colby is best friends with Chelsea, who you see on the
Hmm.
show.
Hmm. Hmm.
Chelsea is one of my babies. That's why I call
Okay.
her my baby. So she has been a volunteer and a part of my team for my events for several years. And so
Okay.
she's a young lady that has been like a mentee, but just my sweet baby. And so that's my connection to Kobe. And then Kobe and I also share a couple of mutual friends as well. But her and Chelsea being very close is what connected us
The
as well.
connection.
Yes.
Okay, cool. And now what about Bravo this year as well? We have in addition to you and your family, Bravo
Yes.
and Lakita are now
Yes.
full-time cast members. And I
Yes.
understand that they're originally supposed to be that in the first season, but
Yes.
everything lined up this season for that. So
Absolutely.
are you familiar with Bravo and Lakita?
Yes.
Hang out at
Yes.
District 78? What's the
Yes.
connection?
So Keita and I were already connected. We also share a very close mutual friend. So our children have played together,
Oh, that's
birthday
awesome.
parties, all of that. So I didn't have a close relationship with Bravo. Definitely know who Bravo is, but every time Keita and I were together with the kids, he was not there because he would be working. So
Mhm.
but we were definitely familiar. We knew of one another, but he and I were not close, but I definitely had a good relationship with Keita.
That's what's up. So, but out of everybody on the class, you probably had the closest connection with Dr. Thompson at the time, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So I have been friends with so backstory, I've known Anthony for several years. Of course, we grew up in Detroit.
Okay.
Anthony's cousins actually went to high school with me. And Anthony went to high school with a lot of my close friends. So we grew up, in the same circle, family
Thanks. Yep.
connected. And so I knew Anthony from way back then. However, Latoya and I share again several close mutual friends, and she has been a huge supporter of my brand since inception.
That's wonderful.
So she and I, just connected and we just clicked. Like she and
Hmm.
I are definitely women about our business, like, girl, how can I support you? So she's always been just a sweetheart and a really good friend.
Those connections are what make ensemble cast shows like Love and Marriage Detroit really what gives it like the heart and soul, right? It's about seeing those relationships. These shows are really great because they introduce us. Typically, these ensemble led reality shows are typically led by an all-female cast. In
Yes.
this show, we get the added perspective of the husbands and friends of the
Yes.
family, and it's a more dynamic view in. And so we love seeing those connections and those bonds built amongst the cast. In this case, we also saw that there was a disconnect of some sorts between you and Christina,
Yes.
who obviously you guys have a very storied past and history together. Had you and Latoya had conversations about like your history with Christina when you were, how did talk to us about how you came on to the cast of the show?
Absolutely. So to be 100% transparent and honest, Latoya and I never had any conversations about Christina because I just
Hmm.
didn't know she knew Christina.
Okay.
she was not somebody that ever came up in conversation. Even when they were
Especially since you did not watch the season, you wouldn't
correct.
know. Yeah.
But even outside of that, when they
Mhm.
were filming season one, LaToya and I hadn't spoken.
Oh,
So
okay.
when they were filming, we were not talking. I was pregnant with my son. So
Mm-hmm.
I was nowhere in the vicinity. We hadn't talked. I know that they were really busy. I didn't even know LaToya and Anthony were on the show until like later on when they were actually in the thick of filming. So
Mm-hmm.
we never spoke. So in all honesty, we never had a conversation about Christina ever. It wasn't until they wrapped filming that we did have a conversation about, just,
The
her
show, yeah.
experience and all of that. But even then, I never had any conversation with her about Christina. And I was just like, God bless it, but
Mhm.
we never talked. Outside, like Kobe and I had conversation, but it wasn't about the show. It was more so like,
Mhm.
can you pray for me, sis, as I endeavor on this journey? Absolutely.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
but I never had any conversation with anyone because I genuinely didn't know who was on the show. Um,
Mhm.
but no, we didn't talk about it. And like I said, I didn't watch it because once it came out, once the promotion and stuff started coming out, I was like, oh, okay. And they had an event here, but I didn't
Mhm.
even attend the event because I was like, me and her are not.
Mhm.
And I just, you want to support your friend, but I'm like, she and I haven't seen each other in a long time. I don't want, it just didn't feel comfortable for me to come to an event and,
Totally
stop them.
understandable.
So I didn't go and I didn't watch the show, but that's in all honesty.
I'm glad you could clear that up today because I think that, and that's what's great about these one-on-one interviews is
Yeah,
that this is really your opportunity to kind of like clear things up, have your
absolutely.
say uninterrupted, you know what I mean, and shed some light to things that the viewers may have misconstrued or not even been made aware of, right?
Absolutely. And again, we're all so intertwined and interconnected. I have no idea who the friend is that LaToya is speaking of. She and I have never had that conversation, and I've never cared to ask. It don't have nothing to do
Oh,
with
you're
me.
referencing who was telling her certain information about
Correct.
Christina. Okay.
Correct. So we never had that conversation. So even in our initial interaction, that's really genuinely LaToya's first time ever hearing me speak about any issue or reason that me and Christina had friction. So she literally she was like, I know y'all didn't talk, but she was like, I didn't know it was this deep. And she telling the truth because she didn't, because my personality is once I kind of am done with a relationship, I'm done with it. So
Yeah.
it's not just, and I'm being 100% transparent. It's not just Latoya. There are several people in Detroit like, girl, I didn't know y'all was, I didn't know. Like, I don't, I didn't speak about her. It's like when
Mhm.
I'm done, I'm done. I don't have that type of time or energy to talk about somebody that, we just are not friends in that way anymore. And so my personality is kind of like, if you don't see me with them, don't ask about them. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
nobody ever brought her information to me or anything about her to me. And, that's what it was. I did not have conversation about her, but there were things that were told to me over the years.
Mhm.
I'm like, okay. But
Yeah.
it never bothered me because it's like, well, we're not friends anymore. So she gonna say whatever she want to say, and that's just kind of like what it is. But again, no conversation, at least not with these people.
All right. So talk to us then, Kimberly, about how you decided to join the cast of Love and Marriage Detroit. What was that process like for you?
Yes. So Latoya did ask me, she was like, I think this will be amazing for you. She was like,
Hmm.
this will be amazing for your family and your brand. You and Marcel have such a beautiful relationship. Like, I think this will be good for you. And at first I was like, absolutely not. Like Latoya was like genuinely like, I really want you to consider. She had several friends that she was, I guess,
Hmm.
their names in the bucket, if you
Hmm.
will. And she was like, just think about it. And she was like, worst case scenario, you interview, they either like you or they don't. And if they
Yeah.
don't, you don't lose anything. And so I was like, okay. And I was really prayerful about it. At first, Marcel was like, absolutely not. He did not.
Okay.
And I was very hesitant because I knew that Kristina was on the show and that we hadn't seen each other in a long time, and that the last time we saw each other, or at least the last situation between us, wasn't the best. And so I was like, I just genuinely didn't feel comfortable. But I was like, I'm just gonna, do the interview. The worst that they can say is, oh, we like you, or we never hear from them again. And so we did the interview, kind of like how we're doing now.
Yep.
And I was honest. I didn't, the same way you're asking me about my relationships with everyone, because that's how the process goes. And I said, I don't know if this is helpful for me or not, but I'm just going to be honest. I don't have a relationship with Christina anymore. And so, I was just honest about it.
Just upfront about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to be fake about it or pretend like, yeah, it's good. Like, no, I'm, going to be honest and just, say we're not friends anymore, but I definitely wish her well, but we're no longer friends. And so in my mind, I'm thinking they are not going to pick me because I am not. And then we get an email probably a week before we are scheduled to do a test shoot. And like, we really loved you guys' interview. We would like for you to test shoot. So I'm like, okay. So my assumption, again, because I have no idea what I'm walking into, is that maybe they're just going to have me do something with LaToya since I'm her friend. Because I'm thinking, just like when you watch any other reality show, I'm a friend of. So I'm going to be LaToya's friend and we're going to talk or whatever. And so I'm like, okay. And literally, it was like, all right, let's go. And I'm like, oh, we're doing this for real.
Wow. So they
So
just
yeah,
hit
it was all like, we did an interview. We didn't hear anything for months. And then it was like email, like, oh, come do this test shoot. Oh, then it was like, okay, we want to keep filming with you guys. Oh, so what time are you? And then it was like, oh, we're going to keep filming. I was like, oh, this is a thing. So, and it's so funny because you know how they say, get ready or be ready so you don't have to get ready, right?
Yes.
Stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
Yes.
Honey, not ready. I was not. My son had just turned 1. I was still fluffy. I still had my baby weight on. I couldn't fit half my clothes. I was like, I am not prepared to be on anybody's television. Like, I was just like, oh, this is happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it literally just happened so fast. And then it was like, okay, we were filming for a couple months. And then it was like, okay, you guys are going to be main cast. And we were like, what? So
Wow.
we genuinely had no expectation, no idea. We were just like, all right, well, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it. So we in it now.
Well, we're glad you're here. Okay. And we're happy to see you guys. And I know it's been a lot of focus on like the drama, right? Or like sort of breaks in the relationships that some of the cast may have. But you and Christina both were really good friends at one time, right? And you've both spoken of that. So I want to talk about that section of your friendship, right? And the good part, the good times, the good memories. How did you meet Christina, first of all? How did you guys meet?
So we actually met. I was still living in Atlanta at the time.
Okay.
I had come home to visit my best friend. And I was actually singing at a conference. And so she's like, our friend is showing in a fashion show. It was a fashion show happening here in Detroit. And I was like, okay, yeah, let's go. And this is a friend of ours that lives in New York that was coming here to, show her pieces. And so we went to the fashion show. And then afterwards, we went to go greet her, say hello. And then she's like, let's take a picture. Now, Christina and Brandon, I knew Brandon. So, and I mentioned this, I think, on the show, I knew him from Star Factory because back in the day, one of my really close friends, he's a choreographer. I used to come up to Star Factory to do choreography with him, to take like private lessons, especially when I was preparing for Making the Band. So I knew Brandon from like literally like 2005, right?
Wow.
The first person I saw was Brandon. I'm like, oh, Brandon, nice to see you, right? Because I hadn't seen him in years. And then he's like, oh, this is my wife, Christina. I was like, nice to meet you. And so I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, cute girl. Like she, I love
Mm-hmm.
a beautiful woman.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, oh my gosh, she's really cute. And so our friend is like, let's take a picture. So she also knew this same mutual friend that was from New York. And so we took a picture together. That was
Mm-hmm.
the first time meeting her. We all took a picture. And then from there, we all had like a group chat. It was the four of us, and we would talk. And this friend, oddly enough, had approached us about a reality show.
Get out of here.
Yeah. So she said, I think this will be great. Kim, you should move back to Detroit. And I was like, honey, I am not moving back to Detroit. Like, I am in Atlanta. I love Atlanta. There is nothing that's going to make me leave Atlanta, right? And so she was like, well, maybe if we can get this going, then I can come to Detroit and you can come while we're filming. Like, she was really trying to put this show together because the thought of this particular show was like, we want to do something kind of like Blood, Sweat, and Heels. I don't know if you
Okay. Mm-hmm.
know that
Mm-hmm.
show, like showing each of us in our realms of what we do and then supporting one another.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so, because she had a relationship with someone, I think at Bravo or one
Mm-hmm.
of the other networks. And so from there, it just was like, we just want to get to know each other because we don't want it to
Mm-hmm.
be phony or like, I don't know this girl,
Mm-hmm.
So we
Mm-hmm.
developed a group chat. And then when I moved back in 2013, that's when she and I connected in person and then, started hanging out. So yeah, that's how we met.
What did you like about Christina, Kimberly, that made you want to like pursue a friend? Actually, because we meet people all the
Yeah.
time, high and by, social people that we see out in the mix. What made you want to pursue an actual friendship and a relationship with her?
Thought she was a fun girl. I thought like
Mm-hmm.
I love to laugh. If you don't see that about my personality yet, you will throughout the show. But I
Okay.
love to laugh. I love to have fun. And so she just seemed like a girl that liked to have fun. We were definitely both interested in fashion. At the time she was like, I'm making skirts and I'm trying to get into fashion design. And I was like, yes, girl. Like I love to
Mm-hmm.
hype women up. Like when
Mm-hmm.
women are doing phenomenal things, I'm like, what we need to do to support you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really what it was. It was like we are interested in the same things. I wasn't married at the time, but she and Brandon, had just recently gotten married. And so I was like, she just seemed like a fun girl. And that was it. Like I didn't have any like thought process. My personality is like very inviting. So if you're
Yeah.
cool, I'm like, come on, like come hang out with us. I'm the girl, like come sit with us, girl. Like
Mm-hmm.
let's yeah. So and unfortunately, like the way you initially see me with my interaction with Christina, you don't see that because all you see is like, girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
my real personality is like, hey girl, like how's everybody? Like just very bubbly and fun. And she kind of had that same personality. And so that's just kind
I'll
of
just click
the
like
way
that.
to get off. Yep.
What's one of your favorite memories of the time when y'all were on good terms and things were good between you and Christina? What was one of your fondest memories of that time?
Probably, let's see, a fond memory. We had a lot of good times.
Mm-hmm.
Probably when I was getting married, her seamstress, Miss Linda, um,
Mm-hmm.
we went to her house and because I had two wedding dresses. And
Okay.
I was like, I need this wedding dress altered because I had got it on a sample sale. And I was like, I need this altered. And so we went over to Miss Linda's and we were just laughing and having a good time and kikiing with Miss Linda. And I just remember like that just being like a really fun time because when I went, I literally both, so my main wedding dress I got in New York with one of my very, very close friends who was one of my honorary matrons of honor. But it was
Wow.
just me and her. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and then when I got this other dress, I was by myself because it was literally like, oh, this is cute. And I'm gonna zhuzh it up. Like I literally was just like I didn't do like the whole everybody come look at me in my dress. I didn't do any
Mm-hmm.
of that. So it was like a really fun moment just having her be there and help Miss Linda, kind of help me get the dress altered. So that was a really fun time.
That's good. And I know you guys had to be closer because you said that you had helped her somewhat with her work in the influencer space. Talk to us a little bit about how you were able to kind of like assist her with that or add to the value of her in
Yeah.
that influencer space. Yeah.
So I started when I started Posh and Popular, like I said, it was a blog. and I really wanted to bring my girls in it. So
Mhm.
I said, okay, what can we do? So we would have like a group chat of like, what do you need help with? And I would be like, Christina, you got to post, you got to do this. Like, like really just encouraging her. Like you gotta make sure your content stays consistent. Like just really like being encouraging. Because at the time she was doing the fashion designing thing.
Mhm.
So I would post her stuff, tag her. I'm like, girl, you getting orders. Like, we got to keep it up. So we would do that. And then I started a YouTube series called Pink Kisses. And so
Okay.
me, her, and two of my very, very close friends, and we would have these discussions. And so we would just have fun having these discussions. And so I'm like, I always wanted her to be in spaces where she would have to do things to kind of put herself out there.
Mhm.
My very first fashion and beauty summit, I put her on the panel, which was called The Business of Fashion. So it was
Mhm.
all these that were like stylists and like wardrobe stylists,
Mhm.
designers. The same
Mhm.
friend that I was speaking about from New York came and sat on that panel.
Mhm.
So I always just encouraged her, like, put yourself out there. And I know she had a website, but again, it was more so based on her designing. So I'm like, girl, you need to blog, like you need to like, put some outfits together, like just encouraging. So, and I think, for some people, help is relative. Like, no, I didn't make Christina. I didn't create Christina, but I
No. Yeah.
definitely was a part of an integral part of her journey as she was a part of mine. And so when
Mhm.
I say I helped, that's genuine. That's not coming from a place of trying to be funny or me. I'm like, I genuinely did. Like we encouraged each other. There was several of us that would support each other, keep each other accountable. And I
I
think
believe in
that's
each other. Yeah.
important when you have friends that are in the same realm as you. And even there was one friend, she was like, I ain't trying to be no blogger or nothing, but I'm going to encourage y'all, what y'all doing? Like, that's how we were. And so, yeah, like I definitely played a part. And, I think that again, because of the friction, people can take that and feel like, well, she didn't help. Like, okay, well, that may be how you feel now, but let's not minimize
What happened?
all
Yeah.
that I played in your life in those first 4.5 years of our relationship. So
Yeah.
yeah, but it was to me, a really great time, a really impactful time, because after that, we all just kind of started doing our thing, and I'm happy
It
for
was good
people.
for all of you. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's so two things. So on the show, we saw that you referenced your ability to be a great communicator. And I can already tell from the few minutes that we've been talking tonight, you are, Kimberly, and you seem to be a woman who's very detail oriented and you don't really miss a beat. So being friends and being in a friendship with someone who you have those similar interests with, you have an appreciation for their approach to business and just the way that they show up in the world. What was the pivot, or what was the difficulty, right, in sort of communicating your way through whatever issues that developed between you and Christina?
I just think I'm a very black and white person. I mean
Mm-hmm.
exactly what I say. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not dancing around it. I'm not sugarcoating it. I'm very clear, very direct. And even in that initial scene with us, there's no way for them to show that entire conversation, right? Editing is very like integral.
Absolutely.
So there's no way for you to really see what actually was discussed, what actually happened. However, I think our style of communicating, speaking information and receiving information is different. So when I say something, and you're saying something, I'm seeking to understand. I'm not seeking to be combative or
Right.
seeking to be right. I'm seeking to understand your position and where you're coming from, and then saying, okay, so what I heard you say was, however, I think Christina's style is, I'm just going to take a piece of what you said, and that's what I hear, right? Not what I'm saying, but what I'm choosing to hear. And I think that's where the initial disconnect was with the start of this, because again, this was never about a phone. And this is not the reason that we stopped being friends either, right? So I just think that the way we communicate with our friends is just different, and that's okay. However, it doesn't mean that it's going to work for everybody. I like clear, concise, direct. I don't do well with gray. I don't do well with, well, what I thought you said. Like, I want to be sure and be clear. And more importantly, my personality is very much, once I say what I have to say, I'm done with it.
Yeah.
And that's from a genuine place. Like,
Yeah.
we can have a big argument and then I'll be like, okay, so we understand each other. Okay, girl, what are we going to eat? That's
Yeah.
genuinely personality, but I don't think that that's her personality. I think that, and that's okay too. I think that some people can get over things quickly. I'm one of those people because I've had to be that way my entire life. I've had to be able to get over things. I've had to have a thick skin. If you have done pageants, if you have done entertainment for a long time, if you have worked in male dominated fields for a long time, you cannot take everything personal. And so I've always been like that. And I can say something and be very clear and move on, but everybody doesn't operate that way. And that's okay. And so we just have a different style, I think, when it comes to that. And you know, it works for some and some it doesn't.
So before we get into the origin story of like where kind of the disconnect started, right? Did you see signs of the difference in the communication style during your time before you all had any sort of situation or circumstance? What sort of things did you see, Kimberly, that could have been a preview to like that approach from her in the future?
Well, I always give people grace, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I never expect me from other people.
Mm-hmm.
My friends will tell you my love language is gift giving,
Mm-hmm.
and acts of service,
Mm-hmm.
showing up for you. I
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I show love. But that is not the way I receive love. The way I
Mm-hmm.
receive love a lot of times is quality time. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and so I noticed, to me, there were things that were important to me that weren't so important to her.
Got it.
Like when you mentioned me being extremely detail oriented, I'd be on,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
when you said the time for this interview, I was on time. You understand?
Same. You did look.
And
If
so
I can high five you right now, I would, Kimberly.
I am very detail oriented,
Yeah.
and there are some people in my life that are very free spirited. And
Yeah.
Christina was one of those. And so I used to tease her like, honey, if I say 5 o'clock, she coming at 6:30. Like, but it's, for me, started to feel like, man, you don't know if somebody genuinely is just doing it to because that's just how they are, or they just genuinely don't care about your
Yeah.
time. And so I started to feel that way when it came to like time, like,
Got
because
it.
we all are very busy people. I don't make it a point to disrespect people's time, because I honor that, because you're making time for me. I understand most people do not have time. They're making time. So when I feel like this is like a consistent thing, then I'm like, is it just me? Like, so that was one thing. And then just like, again, communication styles, like, okay, like, and people can misunderstand, or, oh, I thought you meant, so it's like, okay, but that was never an issue, right? It was never like, I'm never going to be your friend again because you're late.
Right.
Yeah, that was not it. But I think that as time progressed, I was like, I don't know if I like how this makes me feel.
But
And
yeah.
so we had conversations, genuine, heartfelt conversations about it. And I genuinely felt like she received what I was saying. So at no point before the stuff that
Mm-hmm.
part
Mm-hmm.
disconnect started happening did I ever feel like she genuinely was trying to hurt me.
Yeah.
I never felt like that. Um,
Yeah.
but things happen.
things do happen, and there's all sorts of ebbs and flows in relationships,
Absolutely.
especially friendships. As adults, you mentioned us all being busy and having our
Yeah,
own interests and things going on. So it is a little bit, it does feel good. Let's focus on the positive. It does feel good when your friends are attentive to your
yeah,
circumstances and things that you have going on, because it reinforces their commitment to the friendship, and that is
absolutely.
affirming in a friendship.
Absolutely.
um and you strike me, Kimberly, as the type of woman who does not take friendship lightly, right? And you understand that it's a gift.
It
It's
is.
not an obligation. It's something that we choose to do as partners
Absolutely.
in friendship.
And
So
oh, I'm
go
sorry. I'm
ahead. No,
sorry.
go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
And I do because, and I say this I think at some point, either during the season or later on, but my family is extremely close. I'm a daddy's girl.
Hmm.
Very close to my dad, but I
Hmm.
don't have a very close relationship with my mother.
Okay.
And
Hmm.
so because of that, I value female relationships. And
Hmm.
let me say, I love my mother. That's my
Oh,
mother.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
we're not the closest. That's something that I desire to have.
I
And
get it.
my godmother, who was also she was my mother, right?
Hmm.
I lost her to cancer in 2009. And so
Hmm.
that's still something that I deal with to this day. But she really um ugh, she really
Hmm.
put that in me to
Hmm.
love your friends. Despite anything, like I genuinely love my friends and try to make space for my friends and show up for my friends, even at times where I might not have it all together, because I know it's important to sow seeds, good seeds
Yes.
into good
Yes.
ground, invest that time and effort because it always comes back. And I can honestly say I'm an extremely blessed woman because I have some of the most amazing women in my life. And so I'm so glad that that's something that you can just see just from this
Hmm.
conversation,
Hmm.
that I do value my relationships tremendously.
That's how I know that there's more to that story than just you getting pissed about some people making a joke about an
Yeah.
android. And as
Because
you mentioned,
like
you
I
hit
said
you hit
earlier,
home
I'm
to
used
a
to folks
3 hour
joking
scene.
on me with that. That was a running joke. So I was
Yeah,
used to that. That was a joke is a joke, but
yeah.
disrespect is completely different. And
So
so
talk to us about that, Kimberly. What happened? What is the story of whatever happened at that birthday party that really sort of started the pivot or the breakdown of the friendship between you and Christina?
yeah. So whew, okay. So
Mhm.
at the birth, so let me set the scene. So my
Yes.
husband and I had just come back from St. Thomas. I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about fresh off the plane.
Mm-hmm.
I had two birthday dinners to go to that day.
Mm-hmm.
I went to another very close friend of mine's birthday because their birthdays are either the same day or a day apart, one of the two, but they had a
Mm-hmm.
dinner the same day. So we get dressed, changed. I go to her dinner first, then Marcel picks me up, and we rush to go to Christina's dinner. So
Mm-hmm.
I've
Mm-hmm.
already, I've already eaten. So we're coming for cocktails at this point.
Yeah.
'Cause again, I'm gonna make space for my friend, right?
Yeah.
So we get there, we sit down, we're at the table. One of my very close friends, who I'm still close to this day, this is also one of the young ladies that I mentioned earlier that we were in a group chat together where we would support each other on the show, all that. She was there too, and she was sitting. This is a long style table, 14-person table in a private room. So we're not in a huge space. It's not a huge birthday dinner, or not, it's 14 people, 7 on this side, 7 on that side at most, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so my friend who's at the end of the table sitting across from Christina was like, how was the trip? Blah, blah, blah. And she was like, I know you got some good pictures on that phone. What, you ain't posted no pictures? I said, girl, we just got back. Because I'm one of those people, I don't post when I'm out of town.
Mm-hmm.
I post
Mm-hmm.
when I get back,
When you
right?
get back. That's right.
And so I said, I'm gonna post some pictures. She's like, I know you got some good pictures on your phone because your phone take the best pictures. I said, yeah, girl, everybody took pictures on our phone, right? So the young lady that was sitting across from me, and let me also preface this by saying both young ladies that I'm speaking of, I was friendly with, meaning
Mm-hmm.
we were not close friends. They
Mm-hmm.
are Christina's friends. who I connected with, and I supported their businesses. We supported each other, but we weren't BFF, right? We
Got
were
it. Got it.
friendly,
Yep.
right?
Associates. Yeah.
Associates.
Yeah.
So, and also let me preface this by saying the young lady that I'm speaking of was also best friends with my honorary maid of honor that was in my wedding. Okay. So this
Mm-hmm.
young lady was also at my wedding because my very close friend who was my honorary maid of honor, I was like, you can have a +1. Like, yeah, because you can have somebody with you. So this is not somebody that I didn't know. This is a young lady that I had some sort of rapport with, right?
Yeah. You were familiar with her.
We were very familiar. We were
Mm-hmm.
not BFF. We didn't talk. Our connection was our friends, but that
Mm-hmm.
was it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so my friend asked about these photos, and I said, I'm gonna post a couple in a little bit. And so the young lady sitting across from me, she was like, what kind of phone you have? And I said, oh, girl, I have an Android. You know, everybody always talk about me having an Android, honey, but they love to take pictures on my phone.
Right.
She was like, so I'm making light of it. I'm not thinking anything of it. So then she says, oh, well, Marcel, well, what type of phone do you have? He says, oh, I have an Android as well. And she said, oh, well, you two are perfect for each other. You both like mediocre things. So we were like, okay, like, what, like, to me, you don't just say mediocre, like, haha, like, that's not a
Right.
word that I use when
Right.
I'm joking with somebody. So we looked at each other and I said, we were like, excuse me? And then I said, girl, you know, ain't nothing about me mediocre. Like, don't do that. So then it became this whole dialogue about
Mm.
and me and Marcel were like, oh, we didn't realize it was that deep, honey. Marcel was like, do y'all have stock in iPhone? Like, we were like taking it, but they were like being so serious about it. And we were just kind of taken aback by it. So after that point, you know, I get up, I go to the bathroom, I come back. And again, I'm keeping it cool because I'm understanding I feel disrespected. My husband feels disrespected, but this is also my close friend's birthday dinner. So I'm not going to act a fool,
Yeah, I
right?
want to bring that energy to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm all about energy. I'm going to keep it going. I even complimented her on a couple things during the night. So I was just like, I don't know where this is coming from, but I'm going to be cool. So we leave, you know, we get up, everybody takes a group picture, we leave. Marcel and I get in the car, and he was like, so you're going to handle that, right? And I was like, okay, so I'm not crazy. Because at first I was like, am I tripping? Like, this seemed kind of like shady, like kind of like, and you have to also look at it from my perspective. I'm like, this is the love of my life that I'm sitting here with. We came in with great energy, and now we're being called mediocre over a phone. Like, that seemed like just kind of random.
Mm-hmm.
So this is also in December. So literally the next day, I had another friend's birthday dinner. We were corporate events. We had a lot of
Holiday parties, all
holiday
that.
parties.
Yeah.
There was a lot going on. I text Christina to tell her Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. So I was not ignoring her, but whatever. So after the new year, she had reached out to me and I was like, yeah, we need to get together. Like, because I definitely, you know, we need to catch up and I need to talk to you. Because I was like, I'm definitely going to have this conversation. It
Mm-hmm.
didn't feel like a conversation that I had to rush to have, but it was definitely a conversation that I wanted to at least make her aware of what happened and how I felt, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So she came over to my place. At the time, we were still living downtown.
Mm-hmm.
She came over and we talked about it. And I told her about the situation. And initially, she was like, "Oh my goodness!" Like, kind of like I don't remember her saying that. And I said, "Well, you were at the other end of the table. I'm not expecting you to remember it, but I'm just saying, I'm just letting you know that this is what was said." And it kind of bothered Marcel and I. And so I was like, am I tripping? Like, is that something that I should be concerned about? And then I said verbatim to her, I feel like me and you don't have any issues, but somebody being that comfortable being disrespectful, in my experience, if another friend is comfortable being disrespectful, 9 times out of 10, they've done it behind your back. So are me and you good? I just want to make sure
Mm-hmm.
you are good. And she was like, absolutely. And I said, okay. And I was done with it. Like I was like, as long as me and you are good, that's all that matters. I said it's not anything that because she's not my friend. So it doesn't affect me in a way where it's like, now if it had been Christina that said that, we would have had a conversation immediately. Right? But this is not somebody that I'm super close to. So I was like, okay, as long as me and you are good, I'm fine with it. A couple days later, this young lady calls my phone. She is screaming and hollering at the top of her lungs on my phone. So I looked at my phone. I said, I don't know who's screaming and hollering on my phone, but I paid this bill. So I hung up the phone and I blocked her from calling me. I'm like, because this is what we're not going to do. Okay. And I called Christina and she let me know, well, I called everybody at the party. And I'm like, well, why would you do that? I said that's not even necessary. Right. So the initial issue was at first, the young lady said she did not say that. So I said, now, Christina, that is not something that I would lie about. That's not even something that me and Marcel would ever lie to you about. That happened. And that's what was said. Then it was, I guess, a little later down the line, she was joking. Oh, it was a joke. I said, well, now, which is it? I said, because now you trying to make me out like I'm lying. Do you get what I'm saying? So that's what my issue was. It wasn't that this happened. Once I had the conversation with Christina, I was done. It was the situations that happened thereafter that rubbed me the wrong way because it just felt messy. And, people say, well, you were talking about, I have a right to talk to my best friend or my close friend about something that happened because I know that's going to stay between she and I, right? Because I'm like, again, am I tripping? Because had my friend said, girl, that ain't even nothing to talk to Christina about. Don't even worry about that. She would have never heard about it.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, you definitely need to address that. That's not okay, Kim. And so my thing is, so it's okay for you to call everybody at the party, but I can't talk to my friend about it. You get what I'm saying? So it was just kind of like this situation that blew up. And then so it made me retreat. Like I was just kind of like, okay. But again, after this, I had an event. Christina came to the event. So I was like, we're gonna be fine. Like I'm not gonna let this be an issue. But then it just started to feel like a distance. And it just started to fizzle. And then I don't want to give too much away because again, you'll hear more of the reason why I stopped talking, but I started to kind of distance myself. Was I wrong for distancing myself? Maybe. It depends on how you look at things. But I just felt away. I just felt like in that situation, she didn't have my back the way I would have had hers. And it disappointed me. And so, yeah, so you have to watch
To see
rest
how it plays out as the season
the actual
progresses.
situation. Because that was not why we fell out or why we stopped being friends. It was
Right.
the situation that happened thereafter.
And I'm glad you said that because I think that was a large part of the conversations that I saw circulating after we saw that dinner party scene or the anniversary party scene for District 78.
Right.
People walked away from that, viewers, I should say, walked away from that thinking that your initial axe to grind was the fact that you were offended by them making fun of your Android. And so today you're telling us, no, that's not it. It was because of the things that happened afterward. And just to be clear, Kimberly, because again, this is literally your opportunity to kind of add context and really paint a picture for the viewers of the show so they can understand your perspective.
Yes.
What was it that you would have liked to see from your friend in response to your feelings connected to your experience at her birthday dinner that you didn't see?
Yeah. The only thing I wanted was just for her to, like how she initially was, friend, I'm so sorry that happened to you. Even how would you like for me to handle this, right? I think once she said, I'm sorry that happened to you, and we talked about it, I assumed it was done.
It was done.
And so from my perspective or from my end, maybe I should have communicated, let's not talk about this. I don't want you to speak about it to anybody. Maybe I should have been more clear. However, I genuinely thought once we talked about it and she was like, I'm so sorry that happened to you, friend. And, people can be colorful with their jokes and I'm sorry that you were offended. That would have been enough for me. But I think,
Yeah.
again, how it was handled after, so I really don't know. I don't know what else she could have done that she didn't do initially, because I was fine after we had the conversation. But I felt like it was being made bigger than what it had to be. And I didn't know if that was intentional or not.
Mm.
So when she had made a comment about me saying I sent her friends to mean girl me, that came after, when my phone was getting calls and young ladies screaming and hollering on my phone. Because then at that point I'm like, well, was this intentional? Like, because I don't do this. I don't do this kind of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when I felt like, oh, this some mean girl stuff that y'all,
Mm-hmm.
because you calling everybody at the party trying to verify if what I said is true. She's saying she didn't. Then it's a joke. Like, which is it? And
You feel
so
like that kind of continued the messy
it
or
made it
introduced the messy component. Yeah.
into the friendship. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. And that again, that adds a lot more context to kind of paint
Mhm.
what your perspective was on that moment in your friendship. Do you want to be friends with Christina again?
Um, Honestly, I can't answer that question. I'm definitely cordial. We can definitely have a mutual respect for one another. Because again, I don't take friendship lightly. And so I think that we'll just have to watch the season, let it play out. But I honestly, I don't know. And I say this to her, even on the,
Mm-hmm.
it's not like I'm saying something that
Mm.
he said or seen on the show, but I don't know.
Okay. Well, that's an honest answer. And I think that adults who have experienced, again, those ebbs and flows of friendship, they can understand how a person would arrive at
Yeah.
that conclusion that you have. Okay, so you and Christina will you forge your own path to whatever resolution or just peace looks like amongst the two of you as the season progresses and as your experience with Love and Marriage Detroit progresses, because I have a feeling that you'll be here to stay. How have you enjoyed filming this season? Did you have a good time? Like when you look back, without giving away anything
Yeah.
to come, of course, what's your overall takeaway from being a cast member full time on this television show?
It was a lot. I'm gonna keep it 100. I was like,
Mhm.
these people on my head. Production, like, where you at? What you doing? Where you gonna be?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
It's very invasive.
Hmm.
But I don't regret doing it. I think that I don't regret it.
Hmm.
It's just, it was a lot to get used to, especially because my children are small.
Yeah,
And so because Marcel and I are very involved and active in their lives, it was a lot. So now
logistically, yeah,
knowing what to expect, we know what to prepare for, right?
yeah,
And so yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to just kind of watch the season unfold. I think the season is really, really good. I
yeah,
think everybody clocked in.
yeah,
I was clocked in already. I came clocked in,
yeah.
they we didn't have to give you no notes. Like, I'm being myself. You know what I'm saying? So that's the only thing I know to be. That's the only person I know to be, unless I'm playing a role. If I'm acting in the movie, then that's different,
That's
right?
different.
Shout out to Tyler Perry. If you see this, I'm taking auditions anytime you want.
I love it.
But no, I'm always gonna be myself. And I enjoyed it. Even my husband. So the joke is always like, Kim, I can't believe Marcel did. I'm like, no, he's actually the one that's like, once he like, where the
What's
camera,
up? Let's do it. Yeah.
he enjoyed it, but we were both very protective of one another.
Mhm.
Um, we are locked in. Marcel and I don't play about each other. And so we were very protective. If we felt like something was uncomfortable or if we didn't like something, we was like, hey, we don't like that,
Yeah.
And so it was good. I don't regret it. I would do it all over again. It was crazy though. I will be honest. It was probably the craziest time in our life, like in real life. Um, and even production was like, why you ain't tell us what's going on? We were like, we didn't know what we could tell y'all because again, we were new. So
Yeah,
we really didn't know what we were getting into, what to expect, how much they want. We were like, we just gonna be
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
And now knowing what we know, I think that um it'll be a much better experience for us moving forward. But we
Moving
had
forward.
we really did.
Well, that's wonderful. As you know, the Love and Marriage franchise, those fans are very, very passionate, and they have very direct opinions, as well as a person who appreciates direct communication. What would you like to, because we know sometimes they put their boxing gloves on in the comment section and do their thing, but what would you like to encourage the viewers? What words would you like to give the viewers to take with them as they watch the rest of season 2?
I would just tell the viewers, watch the show, let it play,
Hmm.
let the stories and the characters develop. And as a reality TV buff, like baby,
Yes.
I have a group chat on my phone called the Bravo Holics, honey. We watch
Yes,
all the Bravo
yes,
shows. You understand
yes,
what I'm saying? And all the on shows, Love and Marriage, Huntsville. I went to college with,
yes.
like Tisha is
Wow.
very close friends. Like
Okay.
I love reality TV. I've been watching reality TV since The Real World, The Hills. Like, baby, I love
Yes,
some more
yes,
Conrad,
yes,
okay?
yes,
Um,
yes.
but I would just tell them to let the story play out, let it develop, and
Hmm.
don't be so quick to form an opinion of anybody, any of the characters.
Hmm. Hmm.
Again, I have thick skin, so I don't
Hmm.
read the comments. I don't focus on that. I'm not here to bash anyone. I'm not going to play that game, right?
Yep.
And so I just want people to watch it and then form their own opinions because with all reality TV, everyone is going to have their favorites, right? Um,
Yes.
but and I can say this, I would speak freely because Carlos has produced everybody's show. But like when you watch The Housewives of Atlanta, Nene could be your favorite. Kenya could be your favorite. But then one season, you could love Nene and then be like, I don't like Nene this season, right? Like everybody's lives are going to change and things are going to progress and stories are going to change. So I always say, give people a fair chance, watch the show, and then make an opinion. But, I don't concern myself with that because at the end of the day, I don't know any of these people. And they don't
Yeah.
know us in real life. And so because you're only getting, a
A small glimpse.
5 minute snippet of a conversation that was probably 45 minutes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's hard to form an opinion on it. Like when we do scenes, it's not like, oh, we shot that in fact, like baby, we be there all day. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? So
yeah,
but it also gives you an appreciation for reality TV. Like, baby, this ain't no joke. This filming a scene could be 8 hours.
yep,
So it's like
yep,
just one scene. And that's
yep.
being egregious. I'm being extra when I say that, I'm not being
But it's
literal.
a reality. Yeah, yeah,
I mean, it could absolutely be 4 or 5 for sure,
yeah, for sure.
depending on what you're doing. And so I just tell people watch things. I always watched reality TV intellectually, like, okay,
Hmm.
what's actually happening here? What's really going
Hmm.
on, right? And I have seen some comments where people are like, nah, this way deeper than that, baby. This ain't no, she mad about no phone. You know what I'm saying? So you
Yeah,
can appreciate people that can look at it from that perspective.
yes,
But I always say just watch the show and let it play out. But it's
yep.
a phenomenal season. I'm not gonna hold you up. I really do think everybody was tapped in. I really do. I'm excited about it. I
Well,
really
we're excited too, and I encourage all the fans to just have peaceful debate and share their
am.
ideas and opinions peacefully, but definitely keep that passion because you deserve it. And we
Absolutely.
really are grateful that you guys put another beautiful Black family on television for people to see. And I wish you much, much success in this reality TV universe.
Thank you, man.
Kimberly, it's been a pleasure talking to you today. And hopefully we get to catch
Pleasure
up again
talking to
before this
you too.
season is out.
Oh, absolutely. You know, you can reach
Yes,
out to me anytime. I would love to come back. But thank
that's
you
what's up.
for the conversation. You're a great interviewer, by the way.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. Thank you so much. It's funny you say that because I think a lot of people in this space kind of bring people into the interview setting to kind of share their opinions or tell them what they thought about what they saw. And
Yes,
I safeguard this as a space for the talent to have a second chance to express themselves, add context in a
yes.
safe, non-biased environment. So I really appreciate you for saying that. Thank you so much.
Phenomenal job. Good
Thank
job,
you so
Carlos.
much. Well, you
All
take care, Kimberly. Thank you so
right.
much for today, friend.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much.